Now, our speaker, Dr. Tony Alessandra, helps companies build customers, relationships, and the bottom line.
Hey, I like it. He moves around a stage, looks like he's talking to people, he's looking people in the eye, he's communicating quite well.
He was born in Hell's Kitchen, New York City, and raised himself from street fighter to university professor through sheer determination.
I think it's a lot of useful information.
Very interesting, captivating.
Excellent, very good.
Tony earned his MBA from the University of Connecticut and his PhD in marketing from Georgia State University. He was inducted into the Speakers Hall of Fame in 1985 and is a member of the Speakers Roundtable, a group of 20 of the world's top professional speakers.
He's very interactive with the audience. He really makes you feel a part of his stories.
Dr. Alessandra is a widely published author with 14 books translated into 11 foreign languages, including Collaborative Selling, Communicating at Work, People Smart, and several others.
Gets a point across, throws in some humor. It's good.
I'm walking out with a lot of tools.
He is featured in over 50 audio and video training programs by well-known production houses like Nightingale Conant and Walt Disney. Tony Alessandra was recognized by Meetings and Conventions magazine as one of America's most electrifying speakers.
His delivery is just awesome, and it really makes worth a wonderful seminar.
Presenting his program, The Platinum Rule, let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Tony Alessandra. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. How many of you in your dealings with other people have ever had a personality conflict? Can I see your hands? Personality conflict? All right, and I guess the rest of you don't deal with people, right? Come on, all of us, whether we admit it or not, we've all had the misfortune of not being able to connect with another person, not able to create that all-important meeting of the minds, which is so crucial in selling. How many of you sell? Can I see your hands? What's the very first thing you have to sell? Yourself. If you can't do that, it makes everything else that much more difficult. But if you can connect with somebody, if you can build rapport, if you can get them to like you and ultimately trust you, it makes the selling process that much easier and quicker. Agreed? I believe that you can create a lot more rapport with people and a lot less tension with them based on how well you practice the golden rule. Practice it appropriately, you're going to create a lot more rapport with people. Inappropriately, you're going to create some conflict. Now, before I go any further, let's make sure that we're all listening from the same perspective. What is the golden rule? Anybody? The golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I believe in that. I practice it. I live it. I breathe it, especially when it comes to values, ethics, honesty, consideration. However, when it comes to interpersonal communication, the golden rule can, and frequently does, backfire. Now, why? Well, the way it is stated, if you practice the golden rule verbatim, you would basically treat other people the way you would like to be treated. Does that make sense? The problem is, do other people want to be treated the same way you do? No. Probably not. Probably not at all. I mean, I learned that firsthand when I moved from New York City to San Diego, California. When I moved to San Diego, I practiced the golden rule. I treated everybody in San Diego as if they were New Yorkers. Do you see a potential problem here? Came on too strong, too fast, too in your face, too aggressive. Even when I asked people to do things that under any other circumstance they would do. It was reasonable, it was correct, they would do it. But it wasn't what I was asking that irritated people. It was how I was asking. It was my approach, it was my demeanor. And as a result, they dug in their heels and they decided not to budge. Not because of what I was asking, but how I was asking. Now, I believe that what we need to do is practice the true spirit, the true intent of the golden rule. And I call that the platinum rule. The platinum rule, very simply stated, is do unto others the way they want to be done unto. Or treat people the way they want to be treated. Does that make sense? Basically, what I'm asking is for you to talk to people in ways that make it easy for them to listen to you. If you manage or lead people, what we need to do is manage and lead people in a way that internally motivates them to want to follow. And I also believe that you need to sell people the way they're comfortable buying, not necessarily the way you're comfortable selling. This concept is called adaptability. Adaptability is your ability to change your approach, to change your strategy, depending on the situation of the person you're dealing with. That is adaptability. You look at the top salespeople across the board, and they have some level, typically a high level, of adaptability. Adaptability is being able to go into an account and adjusting your approach based on the information you pick up about that person. If you didn't adjust your approach, why do we need salespeople? I mean, we could just send out a video or let them see a presentation over an internet, because it would be the same to everybody. One of the beautiful aspects of face-to-face selling is that you can go in, you can size up a situation, you can determine needs, you can present solutions, different solutions, customer by customer by customer, based on differing needs, but more importantly, you can adjust your approach, the how you sell, based on the customer's style, their personality, their behavior. So, what I want to do is share with you a concept that I'm sure every single person in this room has been exposed to a minimum of one time, somewhere in your life. Maybe a different way. But how many of you, second, third time, through a book, a movie, an audio learning program, second or third time through, you heard or saw things that you totally missed first or second time through? Has that ever happened? Same thing's going to happen this evening. Whether you've been exposed to this concept once, twice, 5 times, it doesn't matter. I guarantee you're going to walk out of here tonight with some new insights, some new strategies, some new techniques that will help you connect with people quicker, deeper, and longer lasting. And by the way, it is not just for sales. I know everybody's in here hoping to pick up some tips and tools and techniques for selling. But when it comes to relationships, it's not just the buyer-seller relationship that I'd like you to focus on tonight. It goes way beyond that. If you work with other people and there's any form of collaboration or team selling, this will help you. How many of you are married? This will help you. In fact, many of you are going to say to yourself, I wish my spouse was here. He or she should be listening to this. How many of you have children? This will help. There's no question about it. How many of you have a manager that you report to? This will help. It is across the board. So don't just listen to it from one perspective. It will help you in all aspects, all relationships. Now, let me tell you this. People will not tell you how to sell them. That would make it too easy, wouldn't it? Hey, listen, before you give me your sales presentation, let me tell you the best way to approach me, and let me tell you what works best with me to close a sale. Wow, would I love that, right? Doesn't work that way, does it? They won't tell you how to sell them, but they will show you. And all I'm asking you to do, ladies and gentlemen, is open your eyes and ears and watch the signals that people send you. Now, when I say watch the signals, I'm not going to talk about listening per se, but I think it's crucial right here. When two people communicate face-to-face, they deliver the message on 3 channels consecutively, and then you hear the message on 3 channels consecutively. I'm using all 3 channels right now. Channels are very easy to remember because they all begin with V. There's the verbal channel, there's the vocal channel, there's the visual channel. Verbal, vocal, visual. Let me define them. The verbal channel. If we recorded this program and had it transcribed and gave you a typed transcript That would be the verbal part of my message. The words and the words alone. Now, if we recorded this and everybody got an audio tape, now you would get the verbal and the vocal. And the vocal is the inflection, the intonation, the pace, the pitch, the pauses, the volume, the speed that can actually enhance or change the meaning of the actual words. So that's the vocal. Now, if we were recording this on video, which actually we are, and you can actually see what's going on, you would get the verbal, the vocal, and the visual. Now, all communications experts say that when you add all three, verbal, vocal, and visual, you get 100% of the meaning of a message. And depending on the type of communication that's taking place, sometimes the verbal is more important than the other two, sometimes it's the vocal, and more often than you can imagine, it's the visual. All three equal 100% of a message. If you miss any of them, I guarantee you, you are missing some of the meaning of the message. If you only focus on the words, the verbal, you may get the content, but not necessarily the intent. Verbal, vocal, visual. Let's talk a little bit about visual. I'm looking at the audience. It looks like a rather young audience, but I want to take you back to 1960. 1960, famous debate, Nixon versus Kennedy. Has anybody heard about that debate? How many people know about that 1960 debate? That was a turning point in that election. That was a dramatic debate because something interesting happened at the debate and afterwards. Something was discovered, and it focused on visual. Here's what happened. After that debate, the pollsters went out and they asked the American public who won. Whole group of people said Nixon won the debate by a little. Now, the whole group of people said Kennedy won it by a lot. So they figured, hey, Republicans and Democrats, wrong. North and South, wrong. Conservative, liberal, wrong. It wasn't any of that. And many of you know what it was. The people who said Nixon won the debate listened to it on radio. The people who said Kennedy won watched it on TV. They watched it on TV. Now, between radio and television, was the verbal the same or different? Was the vocal the same or different? So the only difference was the visual. How could the visual have that much impact on somebody's impression of who won or lost? I'll tell you how. If you ever get the opportunity, go to a library, ask them if they can get you a copy of the 1960 debate, Nixon and Kennedy. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to totally turn off the volume. Just watch the picture. And it will be very apparent to you why people voted for Kennedy. There was such a stark difference in the message each person sent just by their body language. Dramatic. How about vocal? Do you think you can change things up, mix things up with vocal? I mean, I can say to somebody, hey, nice jacket. Right? You get one impression. I can use the exact same words and say, hey, nice jacket. Same exact words. Very different meaning, wasn't it? Take a single word like oh. In and of itself, it has no meaning. Oh only takes on a meaning as you say it. Now watch how you can change the meaning of that word simply through inflection. I'd like you to say the word oh to convey I understand. Oh. I don't understand. Oh. Now notice it's the same word, different inflection, exact opposite meanings. So if you don't say the right inflection, somebody can misinterpret the meaning. Say oh to convey surprise, disappointment, disgust, affection. Hey, wait a second. That was pleasure. Close enough, but you see you can get in trouble on that one. All right? So, what I'm asking you to do is simply open your eyes and ears, watch the signals people send you. Verbal, vocal, visual. I'm going to ask you to make two simple decisions about people. All right, decision number one. Is the person that I'm dealing with exhibiting through their verbal, vocal, visual behavior more open or guarded behavior? Now, how do you tell the difference? Guarded people, and I'd like to know if you know people who fit this. Guarded people do not, I repeat, they do not show or share their feelings and thoughts readily or willingly. In other words, they play their cards how? Close to the vest. They're hard to read. They have controlled body language and facial expressions to the extreme. We say they have what kind of a face? Poker face, more stoic. Whatever they are feeling or thinking inside stays inside. They share information only on a need-to-know basis. These are the type of people that when they get together with you, they do not like much, if any, social talk, chit-chat, schmoozing, whatever you want to call it. What do they want to do? Get right down to business. Listen, I have 10 minutes. What do you have? They make decisions primarily based on what? Facts, logic, numbers, data, documentation. Put it in writing. How many of you know somebody like that? All right? I have a friend like this. This guy is off the chart. Off the chart. This guy is so bottom line, so no nonsense, so cut to the chase. I remember the first time he called my home, and my wife Sue answered the phone. She answers. All he says to her is this: Tony. That was it. That was it. So, I mean, she's got a lot on the ball. She figured it was for me, so she gives me the phone. I talked to him. It was a short phone call, as you can imagine. I hang up. She said, who was that? I said, that was Dennis. Why? She said, I cannot believe how rude, and she went on about this. I said, Sue, that's Dennis. You take him, you leave him. That's just him. I've accepted it. She said, no, you're missing something here, Tony. Let me tell you what you're missing. You know, whether he's like that or not doesn't matter to me, but you are known as a relationship and communication expert, and you have a friend like this. What does that say about the effectiveness of your techniques? Whoa, yeah. Now she's talking my language. I said, I never thought about it that way. She said, Tony, I got to tell you, you got to make a decision. You either have to take him under your wing, coach him, be his mentor, show people through him how well your concepts work, or cut him loose. I said, well, I'm not going to cut him loose, so I'll take the challenge. So I worked 3 months with this guy. Now, I don't know how many of you have a story, an example in your life that you are just incredibly proud of. Dennis is mine. I worked with this guy. It was a challenge. I mean, she challenged me. It was like somebody pulling out that glove and smacking me across the face. I worked with him 3 months. And talk about one of the most remarkable turnarounds. He calls my house. My wife answers. He said, Sue, Dennis, Tony, 300% improvement. You can't get better than that. Unbelievable. This stuff works. At the other end, we have the open people. Open people readily, willingly show and share their feelings and thoughts, whether you want to know them or not. Any subject, anywhere, anytime, fair game. These are the people, they wear their hearts on their sleeves. You could read them like a book. Whatever they're feeling or thinking inside, you see outside. Just the way they are. They also have a tendency during conversation to digress a lot. You know, people like that. Oh, that reminds me. And they jump around. What was I talking about? What was the question? They go off on all these tangents. It's been said about open people that their thoughts are like gumballs. They just fall to the tongue and roll out. Not unusual to leave a conversation with an open person and say to yourself, wow, woo! What did we talk about? Because they're jumping all over the place. And they make decisions primarily based on what? Emotion, feeling, intuition. So we have open people, we have guarded people. Question is, where are you? Where would you put yourself on that scale? Most of the time, with most people, pick a number. And I know some of you are saying, Tony, but should I pick the number I am at work or the number I am at home? Because I have a different number at work versus at home. How many of you find yourselves in that situation? One number at work and another at home. How many of you? All right, we call that schizophrenic. Well, not really. You notice I say this is the behavioral style grid. You don't see it saying personality style grid. It's behavioral style. And here's why. Personality is more set in stone than behavior. Behavior you can change. I can decide right now to behave one way with you and an hour later behave a totally different way with you. I can behave one way with you right now and I can behave a totally different way with you now. So I can change and control my behavior like that. That's called adaptability. So the point is, you can have a different number at work or at home. If you ask me, Tony, what number are you? I would say, well, work or home. You say work. And I'd say, well, with my employees or with my customers, because it's a different number. You say, well, how about at home? I say, well, at home, are you talking about the number I am with my wife or my kids? You say, well, your kids. I say, well, which one? I have 4 kids, 4 children, and as fate would have it, one of each of those 4 colors. It is truly amazing. So pick a number that you believe reflects your pattern most of the time with most people, and pick a particular role. Your role as a salesperson, your role within the office with your colleagues, your role at home as a spouse, your role as a parent. Pick a role. I would say in this particular setting, pick your role as a salesperson in the work environment, okay? Pick a number. Let's go to the next scale. Direct or indirect? How do we tell the difference? Directness is a measure of pace and a measure of assertiveness. So indirect people are slower paced. Direct people are faster paced. Now when I say slower and faster, I'm talking about the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they make decisions, the way they do things in general. Indirect people tend to be slower. Direct people tend to be faster. Indirect people tend to be less assertive. Direct people, more assertive. Indirect people tend to be more patient. Direct people, impatient. When it comes to risks, decisions, or a change, indirect people approach all 3 more slowly, cautiously, and methodically. Because indirect people have a tremendous inner driving need not to be wrong. And as a result, they check, they double check. They think about it, they sleep on it. They do their homework, their research, their due diligence, all because they don't want to be wrong. How many of you have sold somebody like that, right? Direct people, risks, decisions, change, they approach all 3 more quickly, decisively, spontaneously. Because their inner driving need is to accomplish and achieve as much as possible, get it over with, what's next? Now, when the 2 work together and they practice the golden rule, can you see a problem? Because the indirect person is wanting to slow things down. Wait a second. We've got to do this just right. The direct person wants to speed things up. Hey, come on, I got a lot to do. It's good enough. Whenever there is conflict between quantity and quality, who would go which way? Indirect people, quality. Fewer things, do them perfect. The direct people, quantity. Let's do as much as we can, as good as we can. It doesn't have to be perfect. How many of you believe that you are married to somebody who is at the other end? I am. What end would you put me at? Direct, there's no question about that. Don't even pause on that one. My wife's indirect. And it is amazing how things get done around the house. She is a perfectionist about things. And me, yeah, you know, it's in the right, you know. So, you know, it's near the laundry basket. What does it matter? You know, it's on the floor. You know it belongs in there. I got to tell you, hanging pictures is the worst thing with her. Because she'll say, Tony, this actually, so she comes home one day